the spectrum of light on the spiritual plane, the non-physical plane, which is light. You can't touch light. The merger of that equals white light. And then we demonize the merger on the physical plane, which is blackness, darkness, right? And in that darkness is the balance point between the light and the dark. It's not a negative thing to be denied. It's an aspect of it. And so when I thought about that, I thought about the word authenticity, right? We did a video, and in that particular video, we're talking about how many men mold their identities and personalities to match the woman they want. And so that may look like you getting a car that you don't care about. That may look like the rapper getting the chain. That may look like getting that fancy suit. Now, if you're into those things and they bring joy to you in and of themselves, so be it. But if the purpose of these things is in the hopes that this will win a particular type of woman over, we see that now with the pursuit of I saw one guy on the internet talking about, it's critical to have a big Instagram following or, social media following in order to attract a woman, which is fascinating because the assumption there is that the woman is with the virtual pixel of the following, the status. That's what he's more or less trying to say, is that status equals attraction, not understanding that the most important thing to a woman is how she feels within a man's presence, not how she looks by being on his arm. And oftentimes that's why a lot of guys get disappointed when they feel like they did all the things externally that they were, I won't even say conditioned, because, you got to put some accountability on the guy, that they chose to buy into, only to find the woman they did all this for being attracted to a man that doesn't have anything anywhere near the levels of possession or following that he does. And it's like, what's that about? Well, all relationships are based on an exchange of value, but the most important value to a woman is how she feels within a man's presence. And that's always going to be dependent upon the person he is, right? In every society, there are three things that defines a man's value. It's his possessions, his position, and the person he is, which is a combination of his other two P's, his personality and his physicality, right? When it comes to triggering a woman's emotions, his physicality and his personality will always trump another man's possession and position. So the man that pursues possessions and positions, or you could say pockets and position, status, will always lose that woman to a man that knows how to make her feel amazing in his presence. So presence trumps positions, possession, and even physicality. Right? That's the term aura that's so common on the internet now. But this is not some new term. Aura has existed for eons, right? It's the presence. When you're within the radius of a certain person, you feel a certain emotion, right? And women are far more in tune, right? They perceive the world emotionally, right, whereas men perceive the world, you could say, through interaction, through action. Right. That's why young boys will go out and I'm going to jump off this. Right. Females are very relational, and relationships it's an emotional language. Right? If you think about what a relationship is, it's an exchange of value, which is feelings. Value is anything that makes us feel the way we want to feel. So if you have a relationship with someone and you think of them and you go, I have a good relationship with them, a certain emotion comes up when we think of them.
Right.
And so going back to the light and dark thing, it's understanding the relationship between those two. They're bound together, right? You could say light and dark, matter and non-matter. And we as people have both. And so when I think of the nice guy, or I think of, the guy that it's like, man, why is certain guy is getting a certain level of treatment? It's because the way the woman feels in his presence is different. So it's like, okay, if we just described that presence is a mixture of your personality and your physicality, right? And we talked about personality, something that's intangible. Physicality, something tangible. So physicality would represent the pigmentation, the dark, the painting, the matter, flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Personality, psychology would represent the light, the mind, the emotion, the spirit, right? The being that you are. But those two have to be merged together, right? And that's where that uniqueness is born. However, there's something that comes into play, right? We talked about those women. They were all singing the praises of the authentic man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of guys have been sold the lie of being a good man when women actually want the authentic man.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't want a good man. They just want a man that makes them feel good.
Makes sense.
Right. And so it's like, dang, it's making her feel good, everything. Making anybody feel good is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what we're all after. We want to feel good as often as possible. That's what we're all after, no matter what the pursuit is. We want, at the end of it, a good emotional state. So it's not to look down upon, oh, well, they just want to feel good. That's what we're all after.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The thing is that the particular man that wakes a woman up when she's in his presence varies. Right. Some women are free-spirited, one with the earth kind of guy lights her up. And the other woman, a more church-like or Muslim type, rigid masculine type lights her up. Right. And the reason they speak to authenticity so much, and the reason the quote-unquote good man is so repugnant at times, or they're like, why is this, when this guy's so nice to me, why can't I like it? I saw a clip of that. Why can't I like it? Is it trauma? It's like, no, it's not trauma. It's not that the guy's too nice. It's that we both have the light and the dark. And when we attempt to be good, we are simultaneously attempting to suppress bad. Now it's like, okay, well, why would bad suppression be negative or perceived as negative? Is that the bad exists, meaning the impulse, the thoughts, the desires. It's sort of like if I'm somewhere with a best friend of mine or something, and let's say I have a best friend, I'm visiting in town and he allowed me to stay, and he happened to leave $10,000 on the table, right? There's a reality where something in me says steal the money or steal some of the money, and I follow through with it, right? So that's what people think as the dark aspect. The selfish aspect tries to express itself in, it's all about me, I'm willing to steal, I don't care about the consequences. Then you could have what people think of as the good, right? And go, I'm not going to touch it, that's my brother, I'm not going to touch it, all that. But then then there's what people think of as the good thing, which is, I wanted to steal it, but I didn't. Right? So it's not about condemning the wanting to steal it. It's about wondering where that's coming from and doing an examination on why would I want to steal from my own? Like, why would I want to become someone? Why would I want to do something I wouldn't want people around me to do to me? And then that's an opportunity to examine it and not judge it. But if I want to be a good man, or I want to have more accurately the presentation of a good man, then I would suppress the fact and deny the fact that I even had that thought to begin with. And in that is where the inauthenticity that women are repelled by comes from. It's a guy going around posturing as a good man when it's more accurate to say he's a suppressed man. He's repressing aspects of himself that he thinks the woman may not like. And so the authentic man is what women conceive of as a good man, but she wants an authentic man that is in tune with the light and the dark. Because if a guy's... Women instinctively know that everybody has light and dark. So when a guy is very intentional about denying his dark side, something about that feels unnatural and what they think of as unattractive, because what she's saying is that in his presence, my feelings just don't align, and I can't tell why. But what she's thinking is that, or what, on a gut brain level, right, is that this guy is suppressing an aspect of himself. This isn't the fullness of who he is. And something about this doesn't feel right. Whereas the quote-unquote bad guy, the guy who's willing to show his dark side, it's not as if a woman is like, oh, well, I want a guy that just beats me down and there's no positive trace to him. Usually what men perceive as the bad guy, the gangster, the whatever, usually he's not all bad. Especially, he may have a soft spot for that particular woman, but lives a lifestyle that's more on the dark side, right? And you're like, why are women so drawn to that? There are a lot of reasons for that we can go into. But what is most alluring is his unapologeticness of both his halves, the light and the dark. He does not, to please the woman, suppress the light. Suppress the dark. He's like, listen, both come with me. Right, and that's alluring because it's like, man, he's really owning it. He does not fear me. The good guy fears the woman. He fears her so much that he's willing to suppress his dark side. He's willing to suppress himself because it is himself.
I'm having a hard time conceptualizing what the good guy's bad side would even look like.
He usually doesn't show up until he's by himself. The things done in the dark. Right? So it'd be like imagining... We have to understand that we have what's called personas, which is who I want you to think I am. Right? And then there's who I actually am. We can meet a person and we're like, man, something about this person is off. There's an instinctual sense we as human beings have, because we have beyond justified senses, but that's a whole other conversation, where we can sense that somebody is hiding something. But if you've been hiding something for so long, which is the equivalent of suppression, for so long you've hidden it from yourself. But you can't, hiding something doesn't make it go away. Hiding something doesn't make it not real. And so that dark side will manifest itself in ways that are different than you would expect it to look, because that person is projecting a certain image that is like, well, I think this is what you like, so this is what I'll be. Right? And it's like, right. I can tell this person is really invested in getting me to like them and be on their side. So the question is, why is this person so invested? Right? They're willing to sacrifice themselves to get me to like them. Why? Right? Especially if it's someone you don't know super well. So if somebody's suppressing themselves and they're like, oh, well, I don't have any demons. Right? Or somebody who's always smiling. Not in like, you have genuinely jovial people. What's, you know, those smiles where it's like, it's a smile that hides the pain kind of smile. Right? Where it's like, I don't want you to know, or I don't want you to see anything. So I'm going to smile as a means of keeping you out. Right. And so when that authentic expression is allowed to just flow and go, I'm not a perfect man. I have my flaws. I have my strengths. I'm not sorry for my flaws, and I'm not, just like you wouldn't apologize for your strengths.
Right.
And that what's called realness enters the room. Right.
Okay.
The fullness of who he is. That presence feels drastically different to a woman than the guy going, even if he doesn't say it in his words, the guy posturing as, I have no dark side. Let me show you how great of a guy I am. I'm a good man. And they're like, something about this is just not doing it for me. And the guy's like, man, these women don't like, no. Tell her the truth. Right. And the dark side is not necessarily even a negative thing. It's just your true thoughts. So a man might see a woman and his initial thought was, man, she has a really nice ass. Right. And that creates what's called the dark side, the part that is not socially acceptable, quote unquote. Right. That's his genuine thought. And then he's like, okay, I want to meet her. And he goes over to her and says, hey, my name's Billy Bob, blah, 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 blah.
You and Billy Bob.
Hey, Billy Bob is a courageous guy. He's always the example.
Right.
But, my name is Billy Bob and whatever. And he now suppresses the aspect of him that is looking at her and is incredibly physically attracted to her. He's actually aroused by her physically. Doesn't have to be the totality of who he perceives her to be, but he suppresses and denies an aspect of himself, and as it comes off, it's like, what? Why would he deny his true thoughts? It's the truth. Why would I deny the true thoughts that I have? That's because he's afraid that if he were to express the truth, if he were to admit to himself and perhaps to her, yes, I want to get to know you and I'm very physically attracted to you. And your physical attractiveness is a big factor in this, right? Even if he doesn't say that to her, it's saying and admitting it to himself. Regardless of the social approval or disapproval, it's the truth. Now, if one of the truths, as for example, the one where the friend wanted to steal the money, that's an opportunity to transcend the shadow half or the dark side of him. But if he denies the shadow, then It's nothing he can address.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll always keep the desire to want to steal, but suppress it rather than transcend it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that unwillingness to admit that I'm not a perfect man, nor am I even aiming for perfection. So if you're looking for the perfect man, I'm not the man for you.
Right.
And be grounded and own the imperfection of himself. Because love doesn't come from loving what's only perfect. You could argue the truest expression of love is the ability to love something imperfect. Right? So, if he can't love himself unless he's perfect, right? It's one of the deepest forms of self-rejection. And if he's rejecting himself but expecting the woman to accept him, right? But you're the lead. So she's going to follow your lead. So you want to reject yourself? Well, I'm going to join right along with you. So show up fully and say, okay, I'm not rejecting myself. Who am I? What am I actually thinking? What am I actually feeling? And I mean, being in a place where it's like, what's the truth? What's the actual truth? I don't even have to tell it to anyone. So if somebody was watching this, like, what's the truth?
Right. There's so much power in knowing what the truth is.
What's the truth?
Yeah.
What am I actually thinking? What am I actually feeling?
Right.
If I didn't need social approval, if I wasn't so afraid of being thought of as oh, mom's going to be disappointed in you, young man. Right? If I wasn't trying to be such a good little boy, what's the truth? What would I really say? What do I really think? What do I really feel?
Mm.
Right? And that authentic expression, no more suppression, authentic expression is where he can bring his full presence, and they notice the drastic shift in not only the women or the access to women he gets, but even the women he already knows will shift in his presence. Mm-hmm. Right? The masculine, the feminine reflects the masculine. It moves the masculine and reflects the masculine. Right? So, the feminine inspires and it mirrors. Does both. Right? That's why when a man sees a woman, he's inspired into movement. It moves the masculine. Mm-hmm. But then if a woman enters a man's world, she reflects him. And this can be viewed in even childbirth. The child is a reflection of the man through the woman. Mm-hmm. Right. And so she amplifies whatever he is. And so a lot of accountability can be taken for the experiences a man is having with women as a reflection of the man that he's showing up as. What is my presence like? Mm-hmm. Right? Am I leaning on my possessions and my position and denying the person? Because if you reject you, then she's got to follow your lead.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right? So it's one of those things where we have to get to a place where we're not sorry. Stop being sorry. Like, show up. No more apologizing. And it's not in a place of, overly, I'm going to be. It's like, no. Right? You're not going to go and disturb a random person and be an asshole and ruin their day. Right? You may authentically express your intention and desire, but it's from a place that respects that person's autonomy. Mm. Right? But you're not suppressing yourself. Right? But you're also respecting their ability, their autonomy to reject your expression. To say, that's not in alignment for me. And that's perfect, because you don't want to end up with anybody you're not aligned with. But you're always going to suppress yourself if you're only looking for acceptance. We said this before. It's always alignment, never acceptance. You don't go around looking for acceptance. What's the difference? If you go around looking for acceptance, right? Then the other person dictates what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you go around looking for alignment, then both people get to do and be who they are. And that unity happens from a place of, oh, you're my kind of people, right? If you look for acceptance, I'm going in a group and going, what do I need to suppress to get in with y'all? What do I need to deny about myself for you guys to say that you approve of me?
Right.
And that's an ugly place to be. And it's a denial of so much good that could be brought to the world and to a situation with that woman. And so many guys are losing women or being rejected by women that could have been a great situation for them because of their inauthentic expression, their desire and need to get her affection, whether that looks like sex, whether that looks like a second date, whether that looks like, if they're already married, her not leaving. And he's like, oh, well, I need to be a good little boy. And that's a whole other topic, a whole other conversation for another time. But what I'll say is that you can never know, a man will never know, ever, ever, ever know who's really for him and what he's really capable of. You'll never know his true results with women until he stopped apologizing for being himself and stopped denying aspects of himself. And no longer say, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry anymore. And then show up authentically, fully. And it'll create such a beautiful situation. It might not be for everybody. It can't be for everybody. Right. What's your favorite food?
Alfredo.
Alfredo. Right. Do you think Alfredo is amazing?
I do.
Do you think everybody thinks that?
Heck no.
I guess Alfredo needs to change itself to get the approval of everybody else who doesn't like it.
No, it can't change because I like it how it is.
It's your favorite.
Yeah.
Right. And so everybody is somebody's Alfredo. Right. But if they're like, well, I need it, I heard such and such doesn't like a whole lot of cheese.
Right,
So
so you're really missing out on your person because you're trying to change the type of Alfredo you are.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, that's science. But no, it's people are like, oh, I love the little black pepper that is right on the sprinkle at the top. Nah. Right, and obviously there are things we can do to improve ourselves and take showers and things like that.
I hope they taking showers.
But no, it's just the base point is unapologetically being yourself, and then you build upon that.
Mm-hmm.
But that has to be the foundation.
Yeah, with a rocky foundation, you can't build on nothing.
And if you improve anything while apologetically being yourself,
yeah,
it'll always be a place of not feeling like you're enough and feeling like you're undeserving of the people that surround you. Right. Always.
Right.
So, yeah, just there are a lot of things to be done, but I'd say the starting point is going and asking yourself, well, what's the truth? Like, what do I really want? If I wasn't afraid of judgment, if I wasn't afraid of the people I care about not approving of me, what would I really do? What do I really want? And sit with it. Feel the feelings come up in your body and that's uncomfortable. Am I allowed to want that? Am I allowed to say that? Right, and bring the fullest expression, your masculine expression to the board. Bring that presence. Right? Assert yourself into the world. Not upon anybody else, because they have every right to have their own reality. It's just a matter of no longer suppressing yourself and denying the core of the being that you are.
Right.
And so, yeah, tap in and stop denying your unique light from the rest of us. You're robbing us of all that could be if you weren't trying to be somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. But that's all I have to say about that.